we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup.
And in the news this week, a top college football player from Missouri has come out right before the NFL draft this spring.
That has been news everywhere. That won't come as news to you. But we do have other news, marriage news all over the United States, starting with Kentucky being ordered to recognize same-sex marriages legally performed in other states.
And the fact that Nevada's Democratic Attorney General and Republican governor have withdrawn from defending their state's ban on same-sex marriage.
Attorney General Eric Holder, Attorney General of the U.S., spoke at a Human Rights Campaign big gala dinner in New York and made some comments, some announcements about the Justice Department recognizing same-sex marriages. We think it's a little empty, but we'll go over that.
Not everything is about marriage. In Utah, LGBT activists got arrested outside the governor's office because they're trying to unblock the civil rights bill protecting us on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity and expression.
Tons of news from Russia and the Olympics. We'll try to walk you through it in a coherent way so it all makes sense and is chronological.
Demonstrations also held to protest anti-gay crackdowns in Uganda and Nigeria.
Including a very moving protest in Kenya by gay people there on behalf of gay Ugandans.
That we will show you.
Yes. A United Nations committee really went after the Vatican over its cover-up of the abuse of children and also included very heavy criticism of the Vatican for its homophobia.
United Kingdom Channel 4 telecast a documentary called Hunted about the literal hunting of gay people in Russia by vigilante gangs who were emboldened by these anti-gay laws of Putin.
I'm wearing this scarf because it's freezing in this studio, but I'm warming up.
See how we suffer for you?
May take it off. Andy will review the latest farce from Charles Bush, the tribute artist, and
a stage version of Sex Tips for Straight Women from a Gay Man, and Billy Hayes himself in writing The Midnight Express.
And as several viewers have reminded us when we lost our minds last week, America the Beautiful was written by Catherine Lee Bates, a lesbian and a socialist.
Yes.
But we'll start with Matthew Sam. Michael. Oh, sorry. My mistake. See, I'm so caught up in Catherine Lee Bates. Michael Sam has transformed this country overnight.
Michael Sam, All-American. I had not heard of him, but he's a star player on the Missouri team who's the most valuable player. Voted the most valuable player on the team, took the team to the Cotton Bowl where they won, that kind of stuff.
Well, and most importantly, I would tell you, Defensive Player of the Year in the SEC, the Southeast Conference, which is the conference in the United States.
Yes. So what he did was make a public announcement about being gay, which perhaps we should show them and then talk about it?
Sure, let's show about a minute and a half of Michael Sam.
I'm a football player and I'm gay. I came out to my team this last August. And coming out to them, they rallied around me, they supported me. I was kind of nervous. I was like, man, I'm actually doing it, but saying it and just how everyone's reaction was so awesome. And I just, these are my teammates, these are my brothers. I can play for these guys.
That's his third three-sack game.
I was first team unanimous All-American. I was SEC Defensive Player of the Year. And just showing that an openly gay person on the team can have that much success with his teammates, there's a lot of opportunity for everyone. I'm coming out because I want to own my truth. 2 weeks ago at the Senior Bowl, I didn't realize that how many people actually knew about my sexual orientation. So I just want to own my truth before anyone breaks a story about me. Is this a huge deal? I understand that it is, but my purpose and focus right now is playing football. I don't think I should be defined as Michael Sam, the gay athlete, the gay football player. I want to be defined Michael Sam for being a great person and have great character. You know, I probably may be the first, but I won't be the last. And I think only good things are going to come from this.
We hope so. And, you know, what he's saying is, I want to put this in perspective in my life, you know, and get it out of the way and not make it this
well, here's the thing.
The
he is a very successful player. He is predicted to go fairly high in the draft. He's considered a little small for his position. So there's some question about how high he will go in the draft because he may need to switch positions. But in working up to this, there were a lot of rumors about his sexual orientation, and scouts were beginning to ask his coaches.
Does he got a girlfriend?
Exactly. Evidently, they know enough not to ask, is he gay? So the code is, does he have a girlfriend? Are there girls around him? So then the decision was made by him, first of all, and by his agents, and then they brought in Howard Bragman, the Hollywood agent and PR guy, to plan
who
this
handles a
coming
lot
out.
of people's coming outs,
Yes.
Shelley Wright, etc.
Yeah.
And Howard Bragman gathered all the past out gay retired players from history, and as well as
Some of
Chris
them.
Cluey and some others to come and sort of support him right
Have
before
dinner.
he did this.
They all had dinner at Howard's house.
Yeah,
But Michael Sam is a very attractive guy, and he got immediate support from the NFL. The current commissioner, Roger Goodell, has a gay brother. The former commissioner, Paul Tagliabue, had a gay son. He was always pro-gay.
Still has a gay son.
Yes. And
Drew.
And a number of the teams announced their support of him. I think he ought to go to the Seahawks. They have a very famous defensive line that
And a gay mayor.
Exactly.
In Seattle.
Yeah, so I think that'd be cool if he
So
ended
yeah,
up there.
I mean, it's all going to help put it in perspective. There's, of course, rumbling from some players. Oh, I don't want them looking at me in the showers and all those idiots, you know, saying stupid things like this. But
well, mostly they said that before he came out. They were asked about, you know, the standard gay player thing, and they said stuff like that. It's actually expected to be more of a problem from, like, the assistant coaches.
the management side rather than the players' side.
Yeah.
Now, you know, he's famous at Missouri for basically playing with controlled fury. I mean, he's quite a threat in the game. He's a good player.
He was the defensive player of the year in the SEC.
He seems like this gentle giant, you know, and he sings during practice, literally sings the whole time.
There's charming video of him
You
online.
have to go watch that.
Yeah.
But when the game starts, he is scary.
Well, all football players are. You know, he's not alone in that.
He's one of the top ones.
But
then.
I think he's smaller and faster, and that would play well in
Now,
Seattle.
you can read about him in the New York Times and other stories. He has a hell of a backstory in terms of a very shambolic family with a lot of violence in it, brothers who were dead, killed, prison, all this kind of stuff. He actually lived with another family in town where he's from in Texas.
Southeast Texas.
And when he came out, they were totally accepting. His father, not so much.
Well, he told his father in a text message the night before he came out.
Well, they don't get along.
Dad, I am gay.
They don't have a relationship.
Hey, no, they don't.
His mother is like a Jehovah's Witness, and she didn't want him to play sports, period. But he said, I needed this game to get me out of here.
Exactly.
Which is what a lot of people do with sports.
Right. So congratulations, Michael Sam, and thank you. And I think he really will be a game changer,
Yep.
you should excuse the expression, for the country as a whole, because it's not just like a politician or someone, or even an entertainer. This is the national religion, football. Yes. And it has been virulently homophobic or perceived that way. I mean, a lot of support on paper from people, but this could really be a huge change.
People need to understand, among the major sports, football, baseball, hockey, basketball, other than the basketball player Jason Collins, who just came out and hasn't been hired by anybody since he did that, this would be the first one.
Jason Collins has till March 1st to be picked up by a team, but he's considered kind of old and past his prime.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to marriage news because there are big headlines there.
Well, breaking news from Kentucky that
Yep.
a federal judge has struck down the ban on recognizing same-sex marriages from other states. The judge says it's a violation of equal protection.
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Well, we've had Oklahoma, Utah, Kentucky. It's not in effect quite yet. It still has to go through a legal process. But were we stunned to open up our computers and find that Kentucky was the latest to declare it?
We shouldn't be anymore. And in Nevada, the Attorney General, she's a Democrat, Catherine Cortez Masto, she said she won't defend the ban on same-sex marriage in court. And then the Republican governor, Brian Sandoval, said he agrees. So there's no case, basically. There could be. Though.
Well, here's the deal.
This is Lambda's case.
This is a Lambda case brought by couples in Nevada challenging the ban on same-sex marriage in Nevada. They lost at the court of original jurisdiction, the district court, and then the case is now on appeal in the Ninth Circuit. So the Attorney General, this Democrat, filed an appeal, the state's version, that said, oh, you know, children, procreation, bestiality, whatever, defending the state's law.
Just throw things at the wall and see what sticks.
Exactly. But the day she filed that argument was the same day that the Ninth Circuit came down with its decision in the pharmaceutical company case that said you can't keep gay people off of juries just because they're gay, and that kind of decision has heightened scrutiny.
Yes.
We are more suspicious of decisions that involve gay people because they're gay.
I think these fiscally prudent public officials are saying, let's not waste any more money on something we're going to lose.
Well, whether it was money or not, the Attorney General of Nevada and the governor said, whoops, I guess we're not going to win on the basis of the appeal we filed. The couples filed the appeal because they had lost. We're not going to win on our defense of this law. So we've decided to switch sides. Now we believe that marriage is legal, and we're switching. So the only ones left in the Nevada case on that side are the right-wing interveners like the Prop 8 people in California. So they can continue, maybe they can continue to defend the law, but it's really about the Lambda clients with the appeal trying to overturn the lower court, and then it probably won't go to the Supreme Court because there's no one left on the right to defend it.
So let's run down some of the other cases around the country. In Missouri, I guess they want to keep Michael Sam in the state. The ACLU was planning to sue over same-sex marriage. In Texas, two gay couples are asking a federal court, they had, I believe, the hearing this week, to overturn the constitutional amendment. In Idaho, the Supreme Court has cleared the way for a gay guy to adopt his partner's kids.
And two lesbian couples who are about to give birth are allowed to have second parent adoptions.
In Wisconsin,
I'm sorry, the about to give birth is Ohio. The lesbians in Idaho have already given birth.
In Ohio, 4 married gay couples are suing in federal court to have their marriages recognized on birth certificates. We're already recognized on a couple of death certificates there.
Yeah, we're chipping away in Ohio.
Although that's on appeal.
Yeah.
Wisconsin county clerks who are being sued over the marriage ban there say, well, we agree with the plaintiffs.
We want to file our opinion on their side.
In Louisiana, a same-sex marriage lawsuit was filed. In Colorado, where the Attorney General is a Republican and is defending the ban on same-sex marriage, the Democratic candidate for Attorney General, Don Quick, says it should not be defended.
In Indiana, we're waiting to see how the legislature plays out on the proposed constitutional amendment ban on same-sex marriage. The House...
That may have happened by the time you are seeing this.
Yes, but what happened was that a Senate committee that we know of passed the amended version, which, if the full Senate goes along with that, means the vote would be postponed till 2016 at the earliest.
This is the last stand of the National Organization for Marriage, and they are pouring resources in here because they want to get the old bill back that bans domestic and they don't want a bill. The right wing is saying, we don't want this if it doesn't ban domestic partnerships as well.
Absolutely. They used to say that they didn't care as long as they could ban marriage, but now they've come out of the closet on this.
The Indiana Family Institute posted on Facebook, "I'd blow the shofar if I had one. Now is the time to act." That's a direct quote from Facebook. Where is Steve Allen's horn when you need it?
Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, was the main speaker at the Human Rights Campaign big gala dinner in New York City this last weekend. I did not. I don't go to things like that.
No, we don't go to things like that.
And the big news they put out was that the Justice Department was going to fully recognize same-sex marriage for all benefits and prison visits.
It's the law, isn't it?
It was the law 8 months ago, and they're just now getting around to making this announcement. I think this is all just a little exaggerated for the sake of looking like you have something to announce at the big HRC dinner.
He did say that LGBT rights is a defining civil rights challenge of our time.
That was nice,
That's
yeah.
nice. But then Bob Schieffer on Face the Nation, who is an idiot, twice referred to gay spouses as partners, of course, and then he twice asked, "This doesn't affect that many people, does it?" I mean, this is his question. It doesn't. Who cares if it affects 2 people, Bob? It affects everybody, by the way, because it's about justice, and that affects everybody. Bob.
It was idiocy.
I'm not
But they don't know, these guys don't know what to ask or what to say.
He gets things in his head. Skip anything over here? Oh, Kansas. A House committee has passed a bill to let anyone who won't serve gay couples for religious reasons off the hook. This is like for a same-sex wedding or something. Because as we all know, God wants you to be mean to gay couples.
Well, similar legislation is advancing in Idaho and Tennessee,
This is terrible.
and I think several other places. This is where we are at the moment.
This is going to be the civil rights battle of our time.
It is.
Individual religious people. I mean, they could also say, I don't want to have anything to do with women in my place because it's distracting to men or something. Whatever. They can start saying religious reasons.
Well, in fact, there's a small news item from Oklahoma of a guy who runs a restaurant who brags about the fact that he keeps out gay people and he doesn't like disabled people and disabled veterans, and he doesn't like people of other nationalities or races.
Now, if we pass the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, he would be covered in his little private bar there, but
what do you mean he would be covered?
He would not be able to discriminate as
right.
You'd have to be religiously affiliated. But we do have a very bad religious exemption in the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which is why you don't see us pushing it here.
And given how many people get themselves ordained online to perform marriages, I suspect that will be an out for these people who want to discriminate.
It'd be very easy.
Well, the retribution that rained down from gay people in Oklahoma against this restaurant owner who was so overt was that they all went on Yelp and designated his restaurant as the best gay bar in town.
Yes, I know. That's cute.
I hope no gay people went there looking for that.
I don't think his customers read Yelp too much.
Maybe not. Well, in Mississippi, there's a United States Representative, Stephen Palazzo, who, when they had the big marriage ceremony at the Grammys, took it upon himself to speak out and complain that here in Mississippi we don't have Hollywood values like that, and we hate all of this.
I thought they were San Francisco values.
There are Hollywood values, there's San Francisco values, take your pick. So some terrific local activists in Mississippi, we have a picture of them, marched down to Stephen's office delivering petitions saying, excuse me, we live here too, and you're supposed to be representing all the people of Mississippi, not just your little hateful, homophobic types.
I'm surprised Vladimir Putin didn't reach in and stop that.
More later on him.
We got some good news out of Montgomery County, Maryland, sort of. Well, certainly in the first place. This is about the Boy Scouts. We got a picture of him there. Pascal Tessier, 17. He became, we believe, he's in the center there, the first out gay Eagle Scout. He was active in helping gays come out and be out in the Scouts, and that's allowed. But when he turns 18 in August, he will be expelled from the program. And he said, this is a kind of a backhanded acceptance. It says to you, you're a monster of some sort. In other words, being an out gay older person is like being somebody who preys on children. And his mother said the same thing and said, what no one really wants to talk about is the suggestion that gay adults are child abusers, and that is infuriating, his mother said. So we've really got, and the Scouts are not off the hook on this one by any means.
Absolutely not.
But he is the first out gay Eagle Scout.
And just stunning that they can award him that one day and then turn around the next and essentially accuse him of being a potential child molester.
We all know what happens when you turn 18.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's idiotic.
Yes, it is. Now, there was a case in New York of a couple of gay men on New Year's Day who were attacked on the streets. One of these cases where words are exchanged back and forth, these guys hurling homophobic slurs. It turns into a fight.
We're going to put their pictures up of the suspects, of the perpetrators. This occurred at 1st Avenue and 15th Street. So take a good look at these guys, and if you know them, please call 1-800-577-TIPS. It was a 27-year-old gay man who suffered bruises to the head. And so if you recognize them, please call the police.
You can go to the Anti-Violence Project website for more information about this, avp.org. Now, good news from North Carolina. There's a young man, Blake Brockington, 17 years old, transgender man, who has been elected the homecoming king.
There he is.
At East Mecklenburg High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, this election was not a popularity contest. To get elected homecoming king, you have to raise more money for charity than the other candidates. And the candidates were raising money for an organization called Mothering Across Continents that builds schools in South Sudan. He raised $2,335.55. All the other candidates combined raised $868. So he raised 3 times.
We that's how we prove ourselves. We have to be better than everybody in order to do it.
Well, congratulations to Blake. He, by the way, not unlike Michael Sam, had been rejected by his father. He ended up with foster parents who raised him very lovingly, and he is popular with his classmates, and he is the homecoming king of East Mecklenburg High School.
And we'll find out how popular a couple of out gay people are in North Carolina in terms of running for office. We told you that Clay Aiken was running for Congress there. He responded to a question, though, on same-sex marriage by saying, it's a settled issue in North Carolina. Yeah.
Meaning no.
Yeah, so what's your position? And what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And then, but in District 12, a guy named Marcus Brandon seeks to become the first out African-American congressman. He is a member of the General Assembly out of Greensboro.
He's a popular guy. And at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, there is an out gay undocumented immigrant from Guatemala who is in the runoff for student body president. He finished at the top of the voting, but didn't have quite a majority, so they're having a runoff. But that's quite the news on campus, too.
On the other hand, in Michigan, they can't outdo themselves with anti-gay stuff. We told you about a guy named David Gemma, who was the delegate to the Republican National Committee, so anti-gay that the head of the Republican Party wants him out.
And when Reince Priebus wants you out.
Yes. So the woman who was the delegate to the committee, she's embarrassed by this guy because she's running for office.
Yeah.
So she withdraws, and who steps up but a guy who's worse than a Gemma, a woman named Mary Helen Sears, who thinks that homosexuality is a satanic perversion and says this publicly. It's not helpful to your party, but that's fine with me. Hey, and we forgot to mention that there's a lot of, we're keeping up the pressure to get an executive order out of Obama on contractors to cover sexual orientation and gender identity expression. He won't do it, but Harry Reid said he supports that executive order this week.
Oh, yeah. And there was a little scandal because the Labor Department secretary was at a veterans hiring event. And
Tom Perez.
There was a reporter from BuzzFeed there who wanted to talk to him about the executive order, but also, maybe even more importantly, about whether the Labor Department is enforcing a decision by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission that transgender people are covered by sex discrimination rules, and
he can't get an answer out of the department for a year.
Yeah.
To find out whether they're enforcing this EEOC order.
This is a question that has been in the air for ages about, the decision was great, but is anyone enforcing it? And the federal government won't talk. So this reporter says, all right, I see the Labor Department secretary is at this event. I'm going to go ask him directly. And the goons of the Labor Department keep him out of the event and won't let him talk to the Labor Department secretary.
They said, there's only talk about veterans issues, I think was the issue. Well, like we're not veterans. We are now.
And like there's no, free speech at the Labor Department secretary's appearance.
Well, speaking of veterans, the Pentagon is saying, we don't need any new laws to convert dishonorable discharges of gays and lesbians to honorable. Don't fuss with this in the Congress.
There's proposed legislation.
We can deal with it. We will do it.
Well, it's taken Eric Holder 8 months to say the government's going to treat same-sex married couples equally.
I bet you they all went wild at the HRC dinner. You think you're getting something, it's something you already have.
Or should have had. And the Defense Department does, kind of agree with this, but they are kind of dragging their heels doing anything about it. So that's why the proposed legislation exists, but maybe that will move them along a little faster.
But what they really want to know is who were the gays and lesbians and transgenders who went to the White House for the dinner for President Hollande?
Do they?
Sure they do. Well, big news, Edie Windsor, who got us all our marriage rights.
It's the least she deserves.
She got to bring her new girlfriend, and good for her at 85 having a new girlfriend.
That's true. She 85? I thought she was only about 83.
85.
Okay.
And the guests included Roberta Kaplan, who was the lawyer for Edie, and her, I don't know, are they married? Rachel Levine is her, certainly. I don't want to make a mistake about their relationship, but they're together.
Yes, yes, they are. Congratulations to the activists in Utah who, taking a cue from the activists in Idaho who did the same thing, blocked access to the governor's office and the state Senate, demanding passage of non-discrimination bills that would cover sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression.
13 were arrested.
Here's what the Utah legislature has said. We're not dealing with any gay stuff till we get this marriage thing cleared up.
Oh, come on.
Yes. No gay legislation.
The Mormon Church got such an anti-gay reputation on the marriage thing that they stepped aside and they stopped fighting local ordinances on gay rights. Why would they not want the state to have one?
I'm just telling you what the legislature said. And the legislature itself
Well, I thought the Mormon Church was in charge.
Well, you'd think so. But in fact, as with other legislatures, they tend to be more conservative than the outside groups.
But the Capitol is right there in Salt Lake City, in the big city. In New York, we got to go up to Albany if we want to lobby them.
We're continuing to advocate around the St. Patrick's Day parade here in New York City. We will give you updates as we have them. More and more people have signed on to the petition to get the uniformed services, cops, fire, sanitation, out of the homophobic, bigoted, religious St. Patrick's Day parade.
The mayor
doesn't... They can march if they want, but not in uniform.
And this week, the LGBT, a minister in Ireland said she's coming here, but she's not going to march. So the LGBT groups over in Ireland are saying they don't want the prime minister to march either. And he's saying he doesn't, even though they're relatively pro-gay in the government, he's not doing that.
Well, what they say is maybe he'll show up. Maybe the best thing is to show up and march and talk to the leaders of the New York parade about this.
I've talked to them. Try it.
I'm saying once he talks to them, he may decide to step out of the parade.
It really strikes me that any public official in New York will easily criticize what Putin is doing in Russia and all this kind of stuff over gay stuff, and they won't attack people at home who are religious bigots.
And voters.
Yes.
A terrible story out of Texas, Hale Center, Texas. A 16-year-old girl, Sierra Wood, who is an out bisexual, was in class, and the teacher asks the class, so what would you like to see change in the world if you could? And she gets up and says, I would like marriage equality for same-sex couples. The teacher goes on a homophobic rant, tells her she's horrible, and throws her out of class.
Then she gets suspended.
Wait a minute. She's thrown out of class. She goes out into the hallway. She passes another student and says, sup.
That's considered gang talk.
And
Sup.
That's what gets her suspended.
Well,
gang talk.
This is why I don't say sup on this show.
So I'm not throwing you out. So she is suspended. She goes home. She serves her suspension. But meanwhile, she's getting gay bashed online and attacked and all sorts of stuff.
She's bisexual.
So her older sister doesn't want her to go back to the school and continue to be attacked by teachers, by classmates, whatever. The older sister is now facing a jail term for not forcing her younger sister to go back to this school.
Whew.
It's ugly out there.
What is this, Russia?
And a report from the Williams Institute says 21% of all LGBT families or households are receiving food stamps. 43% of those households that have kids.
And there was,
so much for the affluent.
And I skipped over a poll of U.S. Catholics that says they support same-sex marriage now, 54 to 40. I don't think their leaders have gotten the message.
No. So, with all that, let's go to Russia. And
take us through it, Ann.
All right.
You're on top of all this.
I will try to do this. As you may have noticed, or maybe not, because maybe you're not watching. I find it's hard to watch much of it, but I tune in occasionally to the Olympics.
I am boycotting the Olympics.
I find they're just not very compelling.
Well, I'm just,
some people find it
makes me sick to think about what's going on in that country.
Absolutely.
So it would be hard to enjoy.
Well, so they started off on what looked like a promising note. The first night, Bob Costas, before his eyes got really bad, sat down with David Remnick, who I have rarely seen since.
Of the New Yorker, who was an old Russia hand, used to live there and write about it.
An old Russian, Vladimir Posner, who you may remember from the old days. And Costas says to Posner, so what about this? What's going on with gays people in Russia? And Posner says, oh, it's terrible. This is a very homophobic country.
Yes, it is.
I have friends who have considered suicide. And it's only going to get worse after the Olympics.
That's exactly right.
And I'm thinking, wow, NBC is really on top of this. This is great. We have succeeded. We've forced them to pay attention. This could really be good. Well, that was about it for coverage of gay stuff on NBC. It pretty much disappeared after that.
Yes, because now the games have started, and we've got to, enjoy. It's about the sports and about the athletes.
You barely hear about the things like the bobsledder having to kick down the bathroom door. That gets mentioned because it's funny, but all the problems, all the ecological problems, the corruption, none of that. It's all Brigadoon. It's all the fantasy. It's all the pretty uniforms. All the whatever, opening ceremonies. I'm surprised they didn't show the Russian police chorus singing Get Lucky. That became very popular online.
Viral. That was a rehearsal.
That was painful to watch. You watch these Russian cops who are out there beating up gay people, and they're out there singing a Daft Punk song that was a hit at the Grammys about getting lucky, staying up late to get lucky. That was painful. They did honor a lot of Russian gay people, Tchaikovsky, Gogol, Nijinsky, all of that. They had, people in rainbow uniforms and rainbow seats, none of which was deliberate.
I didn't watch it.
There was controversy about the head of the IOC, Thomas Bach, and his speech because NBC cut it for time. Yeah. And people said, they censored his speech about the wonders of, everybody working together. I did not read his speech that way. I saw it. I saw the truncated version they broadcast. Yes. I read the whole thing. He talked in general terms about people getting along and everybody working together and no discrimination. But then he said that countries should have the courage to address your disagreements in a peaceful way, not on the backs of these athletes.
That's what he said right before the Olympics, too.
He said it at the opening ceremonies, and I thought that is a direct slap at Obama and all the European leaders who have criticized Putin, not sent their leaders to the games, sent gay athletes to make a point, which Obama said in an interview with Costas that he had deliberately done. That is Bach doing that. And if you have any question about that, you have only to look at his reaction to something else. On the first day of the games, there were demonstrations around Russia as well as around the world.
Many cities, St. Petersburg, Moscow.
And people arrested in those demonstrations. NBC, of course.
You can roll the tape.
Roll the Moscow tape.
So, yep, there they are. And so
these are a dozen demonstrators in Moscow getting arrested just for going out in the street and holding up a rainbow flag. They got arrested. Oh, they were singing the national anthem of Russia, too. They got hauled off to jail where they were beaten in jail.
Sexually
harassed.
Harassed, yes. Would be the word.
Go
suck me or something, that kind of stuff.
None of that on NBC. So the head of the IOC is asked about these arrests, and his answer is
it's in sync with Russian law. They didn't have a permit.
I am under the impression that in most countries you must get permission to hold a demonstration.
Not in this country.
Oh my
most of the
God!
time.
So that's how things are going now. By contrast,
to hold a demonstration.
The UN Secretary Ban Ki-moon, who has been a wonderful supporter of gay people and people with AIDS for years, spoke at an IOC meeting just before the games begin. He said, "We must all raise our voices against attacks on LGBT and intersex people. We must oppose the arrests, imprisonment, and discriminatory restrictions they face." That is a statement, a courageous and wonderful statement. U.S. UN Ambassador Samantha Power met with the ex-Pussy Riot members when they came to New York, called them brave troublemakers. That was terrific. But mostly, I guess I have to give a little credit to Budweiser, which canceled its Club Bud in Sochi. They usually throw a big party there. They canceled it because all of this is such a mess. And then you have Chevy and Coke running these ads with gay people in them during the NBC coverage, thinking that's enough. But the out gay athletes are not doing much. There was one not gay but supportive snowboarder who had a picture of Pussy Riot on his snowboard. But generally, the out gay athletes have been saying, "Oh, I'm not political. There's no problem. I'm fine."
But after she won the bronze medal in the what is it?
Speed skating.
Speed skating. This bisexual Holland, Irene Wust, is that how you say her name?
Wust, probably.
She's at a party where Putin is hanging out.
Yep.
And she cuddles with him.
Yeah.
And provides cover for him at the Holland Heineken house.
Yeah.
Can't have a gay house, you can have a beer house.
So we had a demonstration here outside the Russian consulate.
And we say we mean us, among others. 100 people.
Yeah, it was good. And you will see me, identifiable by, of course, the hair and my earmuffs, pouring fake vampire blood on the Olympic flag.
Oh, why did you tell him it was fake blood? All over the Olympic flag. It looks like a Pollock, but it was a very striking image. This was right in front of the Russian consulate, folks. And a lot of people turned out in very cold weather to make... knowing that that we're not going away on this issue.
That's a leader of Rusa LGBT, their gay organization, and this video is actually the Russian TV coverage of the demonstration. We're actually not showing it to you all sound up because most of it is in Russian. But there we are parading. Gay bashing is not an Olympic sport was the main slogan for that. So we had a good demonstration.
Yes, that's enough. That's enough of that.
Queer nation.
Because
at the Russian
what we're
consulate.
hearing from Russian LGBT activists is that they are terrified about what's going to happen after the Olympics.
Right.
three in, what they did in St. Petersburg to get arrested was, all it said was any form of discrimination is incompatible with the Olympics. And for this, you get arrested.
They're
arrested
snatched
for that,
off the streets.
For arrested.
And again, no mention of this on NBC, no mention of this really in the world press beyond small stuff here and there.
Now, the anti-gay Americans, like Larry Croft of Rochester, were allowed to preach on the street in downtown Sochi, but they did have to put their banner away, even though it said, "God bless Putin for his stance on homosexuality."
But you
can't use that word.
They were not arrested.
That's correct.
They were not beaten. They were not told to leave the streets.
Well,
they were there
because they
at the Sochi train station,
upholding traditional values. Now, what about
a famous Russian author has been questioned by the cops and accused of breaking the propaganda law because she donated a book to the library.
Oh, yes.
That had gay people in it.
It was about family diversity, and it included gay stuff. But they said this leads to gay sex.
The group Blondie refused to play in Sochi. Thank you to them. And a member of the European Parliament, Michael Cashman, cut up his Visa card in the middle of a session, got up to give a speech and said, "Not in my name," and cut up his Visa card.
Full disclosure, I haven't done that yet, okay? It's very hard changing cards, but God bless them.
Chobani, the yogurt company that's having trouble getting into Russia, put up a picture of sort of rainbow Chobani.
Do you think I should get rid of my card?
I don't know.
All right.
And the gay games are in Cleveland in August this year. They did a 30-second TV spot and ran it during the opening ceremonies of the Olympics in cities around Ohio.
Okay.
It's a really good spot. So,
and then Google gave us a lot of support. Around the world, we got a picture of this. Around the world, they put up rainbow sports, and then they had a big statement at the bottom supporting non-discrimination. And this was what you saw whether you were in Iran or Russia or any place else.
It was their Google Doodle for the
yes, it was.
for the day. And there are empty seats at the Olympics. Things are still going wrong. It's
but in Toronto, you can always count on Mayor Rob Ford, the one with all the drug trouble. Mm-hmm. He demanded that the rainbow flag, which was up there because of the Sochi Olympics, be taken down. I don't think they did, though. And he said he would never attend Toronto's Pride Festival. The mayor of Toronto, which used to be a cosmopolitan city.
Well, he's kind of a right-winger.
It's kind of embraced a lot of right-wing suburbs. It's been folded into the city, and that's why you got Mayor Rob Ford.
And in Atlanta, Georgia, a group of gay activists went to
including the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
They went to Centennial Park, where the Atlanta Olympics were held a few years ago, just to do a little,
there they are.
What did they call it? Love, Hope, and Solidarity Vigil for Russian LGBTs. Coca-Cola has an office there. They kicked them out of the park.
Yep.
No statement about whether they had the right to do that, but
After their nice ad in the Super Bowl where they slipped us in for one second.
And an expanded version in the Olympics, but they kicked these peaceful, positive demonstrators. They said nothing about Coke. It wasn't about Coke. They were just pro-LGBT Russians, and they got kicked out of the park by
Chevrolet
Coke.
did a couple of nice family diversity ads.
Yes.
Right.
And Stoli, still attempting to resurrect their reputation, gave $150,000 to this Russia Freedom Fund, which we're still, this is the Arcus Foundation, All Out, HRC, Melissa Etheridge. We hope this money they're raising is actually going to get to LGBT Russians. We're a little unclear about how that's actually going to happen because there are laws in Russia against foreign donations and all of that. But Stoli gave $150,000 to them, to the Russian Freedom Fund, after giving $300,000 to the LA LGBT Center. So the gay bar in Chicago that had been boycotting Stoli let them back in.
If you are enjoying the Olympics, I'd like to spoil it for you. because you need to see this documentary that was produced by the United Kingdom's Channel 4. Now,
Yes.
it was on YouTube. They've taken it down there. You got to go to their website. Try to find this. It's called Hunted. And this is a correspondent who went out with these neo-Nazi vigilante groups which lure gay people in and then torture them. And they're happy to show it. Then they post their videos online, and the gay person has to leave town because he is disgraced and has to get out. And his
they're
family
very
disowns
amused.
him.
They're just chuckling through the whole thing.
It is so sickening, but it's the kind of thing we need to face in terms of dealing with. And here's the problem: we have horrible anti-gay bigots like that here, but they get prosecuted if you find out what they've done. Generally, in our day and age.
Terrible.
Yeah. All right.
And Obama's named another out lesbian delegate to the U.S. official delegation to the Paralympics, which follow the Olympics always in the same facilities a week or two later. Kathleen Martinez, Assistant Secretary for Disability Employment Policy at the Department of Labor. We're back to them. And finally, the gay bar in Sochi that we've heard about says, please, leave us alone. We're sick of you. Come on. If you keep publicizing us, because everybody's going there to say there are gay people in Sochi, we're not going to be able to stay here. We're going to have to leave town. And P.S., one of our patrons was assaulted by a cab driver who picked him up, who realized that he was gay.
All right.
All right. Other international news.
Well, there was a big expose in the New York Times this week about the horrible situation in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And we've got a picture of this is in the courtroom. They take out a lash and whip you 20 times or whatever it's called for being gay. And this guy was happy to demonstrate it for the photographer. This is what is going on there. This is especially in the north where Sharia law is in force. But a lot of this has been stepped up because the president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, that's his name, signed an anti-gay bill into law. So,
there will be a global day of action against what's happening in Nigeria.
March, right?
March 7th, in the middle of the day, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., wherever you are. Check out, Google this or check out Facebook for the Nigeria Global Day of Action. It would be a good idea to show up
because
for that.
this week we had a Global Day of Action on Uganda.
Yeah.
Because President Museveni there is cogitating about whether to sign the anti-gay bill, and he's enjoying the attention that it gets him because he doesn't normally get a lot of attention. So
there's a lot of speculation of how he's going to go on this. He actually, I have to give him credit for having delayed this for a long time in Parliament, but then the ultra-right wing just went ahead and passed it without a quorum. He's very concerned about what the world is going to do to him. Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa and is really oil-rich and more independent. Uganda really will be in trouble if other countries start punishing them for this.
So I was covering the small action that took place at the Uganda House, which has now taken its name down in New York. They used to have
it?
Yes, they used to have it in big letters there, Uganda House. They've taken it down.
Yeah.
So people like Northrop here are demonstrating and shouting at people as they're coming out of the Uganda House. And they don't want to talk to me as a reporter, but one guy does. He says, they think I'm Ugandan. I'm the UN ambassador to the South Sudan. I said, really? What's the situation for gays like there? He says, the problem has not arisen. That was his quote.
Watch out.
But in Uganda, as in Nigeria, because you have these laws or pass these laws, whether or not you sign them, it steps up anti-gay activity, violence, all those kinds of things. And that's what we need to stop.
So I have to say, the most moving thing I've seen this week was video of a demonstration held in Nairobi, Kenya, on behalf of LGBT Ugandans on this Worldwide Day of Action for Uganda. We were at this small demo, but this is what happened in Nairobi on behalf of Uganda.
They sang. Placards in hand, chanting slogans. they strutted their stuff. Faces masked, albeit to conceal their identity.
Gay rights are human rights.
They congregated outside the Uganda High Commission, hoping to get audience with the Ugandan High Commissioner to Kenya. But they were not accorded that request. So instead, they chose to picket outside in solidarity with their Ugandan brothers. Their concern?
This bill has major repercussions to human rights conditions across the East African community, and actually most of us are here because we are members of the EAC, and we are concerned about the fundamental freedoms such as association, equality and privacy that are going to be affected once this bill comes into law. Already the effects of the bill can be felt. Gays and lesbians are crossing the border and seeking asylum in Kenya. There's an increasing number of LGBT migrants in Kakuma camp.
We are appealing to Uhuru Kenyatta to talk to Museveni, because a lot of gay people are being persecuted in Uganda, and it's the high time we also need to, the people who are persecuting people, actually they are the ones who need to be taken to Hague.
For them, their wish is to be accepted as normal part of society.
Homosexuals are not sick people. They are not abnormal, as he called them, relating them to albinos. And they are not people who need to be repatriated or rehabilitated back to society.
Look, I've been an activist for 40 years. I've never done anything as brave as that, to stand there and do that in that country.
So please turn out on March 7th on behalf of Nigerian LGBTs. By the way, I have a quick update, the beauty of the iPad. The Secretary of Labor here has announced that, yes, they're not protecting transgender workers, but it's under review.
A year later.
Yeah.
By the way, 98% of Nigerians do not believe society should accept homosexuality. That's a hell of a poll.
More than 200 scientists, therapists, psychiatrists signed a letter to the Ugandan president to declare that homosexuality is a natural condition because he's conditioned his decision on the bill, supposedly.
And 500 rabbis, a letter was delivered to them by the American Jewish World Service, and our old friend Ruth Messenger was behind that. 500 rabbis in a letter to Museveni on this.
In Albania, they have scheduled the first Pride Parade for May 17th.
In Tirana, yep.
We'll see whether they pull that off.
The outgay U.S. ambassador to the Dominican Republic, Wally Brewster, is not shying away from being out there with his partner. They got themselves on the cover of the Dominican High Society magazine, and they also brought in LGBT activists from the Dominican Republic for a big public meeting.
And Cyprus is planning to hold its first Pride Parade in Nicosia in May.
In Iran, 4 soccer players on the national women's team were banned because they are men, awaiting gender reassignment surgery, and they are told that they will be allowed back after surgery.
That's always the question. Do you do it by what the gender in which they're living their daily life, or do you impose things like surgery?
The United Nations Committee on the child, what is it called? On the interests of the, what is it, of the child? Whatever, I'm sorry. Has issued a report on the Vatican. Is calling on them to remove all child abusers in their ranks, report them to law enforcement, open the archives so that bishops and others who concealed the crimes can be held accountable. None of them have. So the Vatican says, "Oh, we've already done a lot of this. How many bishops are in jail?
We've done it."
And the Vatican also says, "We're not responsible for priests and bishops around the world, just in Vatican City." Well, you got a big guy there named Benedict who did this. Give him up.
He's in isolation at the moment.
He's in Vatican City.
All
Give
right.
him up.
AIDS news?
Sure.
Okay. The Centers for Disease Control, at activist request, will modify its statements about unprotected sex. They will now refer specifically to sex without condoms, or things like suppressed viral load, which could also be considered safe sex. So they're cleaning up their language.
Horrible tug-of-war going on in Louisiana, where hundreds of people with HIV/AIDS are getting their checks refused for their Obamacare under Blue Cross Blue Shield, because it's a dispute over federal subsidies and rules over fraud and all this kind of stuff.
Blue Cross Blue Shield says that there can be no third-party payments of premiums, but often premiums are paid by AIDS organizations.
Ryan White and all that kind of stuff. Lambda is challenging this, And a big report out from the CDC about something we've talked about often, which is why African Americans, who are 14% of the population, constitute 44% of new infections, and half of the people living with AIDS in the United States. And it's because only a third of them have viral suppression, where they're taking the drugs enough to keep the virus repressed. But they think they can turn this around if they focus on what they need to do.
Well, it continues to be fear of stigma that keeps people away from testing and treatment and adhering to treatment and all of that. All right. Play reviews?
I hate everything, but I liked Billy Hayes in writing The Midnight Express. It's Billy himself. Talks about his escape from the Turkish prison in 1975. It was the hit movie with Brad Davis. It was a good movie, but I think the truth makes a better story. It's a different story. It's a different story.
Yeah.
Even though we know how it turns out, he really does a terrific job there at the St. Luke's
It must be
Theater.
Amazing to see him in person talking about it.
He's in his 60s now. He's very fit. He's very into Zen, which is what he got into in prison. That's how he got through this. But when you hear how he got out, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. We saw The Tribute Artist, which is the new Charles Busch, Julie Halston vehicle.
Well, I saw half of it.
Well, it's got this crazy, you know, if you know Charles...
It's farce.
If you're a Charles Busch fan, you're going to love it. Convoluted plot, but it really could have been condensed a little bit, I think.
Really no need for 2
zanier.
hours. Yeah. You know, it's mildly amusing, but I really thought, what's the point?
Yes. And then I did see Sex Tips for Straight Women from a Gay Man, which is based on a book that was very popular, but the play was written by a straight guy. I don't want to say anything about all this thing.
Some of our best friends.
This is sort of for bachelorette parties, basically, I think.
Well,
it's
that
not
was
for
true.
us. But it does prove that
naked boys singing.
Yes, that's what happened with that.
Yeah.
Although that was much better. This sort of proves that burlesque is not dead.
And we do thank the viewers who jogged our memories to let us know that it was Catherine Lee Bates who wrote America the Beautiful, because we did sort of blank out on that last week.
Yes, that was the song that they were using in the Coke commercial, and they were singing in foreign languages, which upset the right wing very much.
So we're paying attention to the Olympics. We're continuing to do demonstrations. I suspect
we're exhausted.
We are exhausted.
We have to go to 2 meetings tonight.
About Russia and about the St. Patrick's Day parade. But we do need to keep up the pressure on Russia. Once the Olympics are over, we have to keep going. If you have any particular ideas about that, do let us know. Because we need to keep this invigorated.
We really ought to. Well, you're having a meeting tonight, but I hope we schedule something fairly soon afterwards, after the Olympics, to show that we're not abandoning our Russian LGBT brothers and sisters.
Absolutely not.
Or those in Nigeria, or those in Uganda. There's a lot to work on.
But there's a lot you can do too, and we'll keep you informed of what people are doing all over the world. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching, and if you want to be on our email list, write to me at andyhom@aol.com.